Yeah, it says recording. All right. All right. So good morning. This morning we're going to talk about the use and hiring of readers. And we have a lot of things on the docket to talk about this morning. And a lot of great tools that we want to highlight for you today. We're gonna start this out. It's both Enrique and myself, Sharonda, and we're gonna start out this wonderful adventure in talking with Miss Kate. Did I get it right, Kate?
Yep,
From
that's right.
Yay, from Aira. And specifically, we're gonna talk about um, this is kind of geared towards students, and so we're going to talk up first about the distance learning program.
Yes, so right now, Aira has, like you said, our distance learning program that they're offering.
Okay.
And so for up to 30 minutes at a time, Aira is sponsoring free calls for eligible tasks that are related to online education. And all you have to do, you don't have to be a paid explorer or anything, but you do have to call in and get registered as a student. So you just call our customer care team, super easy, and tell them, where you're enrolled and what you're needing assistance with, and they'll register you as a student. And then you can call us and tell us that you need the distance learning, and we'll activate it. And we have helped with all kinds of things. Classes are online right now. I have sat through statistics classes.
Oh.
I have sat through through English lectures. We've done some career training and things like that. And most of the time we will watch the chats and see if anybody pings the person that we're working with, or if there's any links or relevant information posted. And we will take notes as the professor is talking. We've done tests online. We log in and help a student with visual information related to a test and things like that. And each call is 30 minutes, but you can call in an unlimited number of times. And so if you have, an hour-long lecture, you can just call us right back in the middle, and you'll get the same agent as long as you call back within 2 minutes, usually. They'll pick right back up where they left off. And homework, homeschooling, all kinds of things like that.
That is amazing. What an amazing tool. So basically, it sounds like you've done all kinds of things. Do you all, like, when you're on the computer, are you using Team Viewer for that? Like, helping a student with that kind of stuff, or how are
yes.
you doing? Mm-hmm.
Usually it's team viewers, so we'll log in to their computer, and they'll get logged into the classroom, and then we can see everything on their end. So like one explorer that called in, she had a bunch of questions for the professor, but it was difficult for her to listen and find the raise your hand button, using JAWS. So she would tell me, can you please raise my hand? And then he would acknowledge her, and I can mute my mic on my end so that they can't hear any background noise, and she can just talk and ask her question that way.
Wow, that is awesome. That is way cool. Now, is this only through the COVID-19 situation, or is this like kind of an ongoing thing? As well, I guess COVID-19 is going on for a while, but I'm just saying it's not like we got an end in sight, is it?
That's true. That's true. So right now the program is available. The end date is set for June 30th right now.
Okay.
That doesn't mean that that's when it will officially end.
Yeah.
That's just what they've planned for right now.
Got you. That's pretty awesome. That is awesome. And I mean, for a lot of college students who have been thrown into, having to do this on their computer, and some stuff, we know, and some stuff we don't. This is a great tool. This is a wonderful tool to use. Um, and that's exactly kind of the crux of our conversation, that there are so many tools that, you have to have these tools in your tool belt, and this is a great thing to use. It's a great way to, work through that. Now we've talked in the past, and we've told people about the 5 minutes free. And as you prepare to talk about that, one of the things that Enrique and I want to bring out is that you need to have those 5 minutes can be used to do a lot of things.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh my gosh. And I think the key to it all is being prepared, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Tell us a little bit about your side of that.
So the 5 minute free, when it first rolled out, I know people were a little concerned, like, what can you actually do in 5 minutes? But the way that they came up with the 5 minutes is they looked at all of the calls that Aira has received, and the majority of our calls, the average was 5 minutes or less. Wow. So they were like, hey, let's go with 5 minutes. That'll work. And we get, obviously those calls are unlimited as well. You can call back in as many times as necessary to complete your task. But I have found, for example, if you have a few pieces of mail that you're looking to get read, if you call in and have the mail stacked and ready to go, and I'll say, can you move your camera a little bit to the left, and we can boom, 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 get through 5 or 6 to 10 pieces of mail easily in 5 minutes as we go through. Things like identifying things in the kitchen. If you're in the kitchen and you've got the camera ready to go, and you can tell us quickly what you're after, we can easily complete those kinds of things. I mean, honestly, the 5 minutes, it's just amazing what we get done in 5 minutes. I mean, most of our calls are completed. Occasionally somebody will call back and be like, oh, I just wanted to tell you that I was done, because they just got cut off as we were finishing. But
right. I love what you said, though the two things that mark, that call being so wonderful is preparation and direction.
Yes.
Hey, this is what I need. This is what I need for you to tell me. I love that. And that is, I know we're going to talk about that, Enrique and I, a little bit later on, but that's key. That is so key. You've got to know what you want, and you've got to be prepared, we've got to be prepared for that agent to help us out. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it definitely helps us if you can concisely tell us, what it is that you're looking to do, so we can just roll right into that task really quickly.
Do you have to be an explorer to use those 5 minutes free calls?
You do not. All you have to do is download the app and fill out the required information, and anybody can call in and utilize those 5 free minutes.
Oh, wow. That's good information. Yep.
So, and like I said, those are unlimited as well. So even if you have a longer task and you think it can't get done in 10 minutes, give us a call, see what we can do. And then if we can't get it done, call right back. It's super easy.
That is awesome. What a cool tool. I'm telling you, this is a cool tool. Really, really, really. So the last thing I wanted to ask you about is, sometimes there are things that need to be done. I had some paperwork that I had tried to fill out. I'm just using myself as an example, and I'm telling you, that thing was just skipping all over the place. And I finally, I needed to have it done like yesterday. So I did call in and work with someone from Aira. Um, I guess what I want to, where I'm going with this is, maybe, you know, a person may say, I don't have a lot of money, you know, I don't have that type of money for this. There are, you know, the plan seems to be $1 a minute or so, you know, is that correct?
Yes, so we have a couple different levels of plans.
Okay.
Obviously, there's the free plan, which is just the 5 minutes, and then the next one is our intro plan.
Mhm.
It is $29 a month, and you get 30 minutes. But the awesome thing about that plan is you also get the 5 free minutes.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
every time you call in, you still get the first 5 minutes of your call are free,
Mhm.
and then it will, if you are that paid subscriber at the intro level, then it'll roll into using your minutes. So you have the option to work on a little bit longer tasks that way. And then also what happens is, say you use your 30 minutes, you can continue to call in and use the 5 free minute calls, and the system will just end the call. And so it won't add extra minutes and then charge you for it later or anything like that. It'll use your minutes and then end the call, and then you just have the 5 free minute calls.
Wow,
So,
that is
but
cool.
yeah,
Lot.
it,
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
oh, no, it's okay. I was just gonna say it's nice that you still get that 5 free minutes, because it really stretches those paid minutes out over the course of the month.
Yeah. Yeah,
So.
that's true. That is true. Yeah. So, Enrique, am I missing anything that you think we should ask before we 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 stop on this particular thing?
No, I think you guys covered it all. So I think we got what we need.
Kate, thank you so much. We truly appreciate you for giving us this informational demo.
Oh, my pleasure. Thanks
Oh,
so much for calling, and we love our explorers. So.
and we surely love and appreciate you all for everything. All right, have an awesome day.
Thank you. Same to you.
Okay,
Bye.
bye.
Okay. So we got a lot of information from that um from that call. I feel based on what that they will do as far as getting information. I really like the fact that, again, people need to be prepared for it,
I love
right?
that. Hmm.
Yeah, if people are not prepared, if you're trying to call and you're like still fumbling around to kind of arrange your mail in a little nice pile or whatever, then you're gonna end up spending more of that time on that call, right? Because as soon as a call is picked up on their end, it starts counting, right? It's like, I was thinking about it. It's like calling an Uber or a cab, and before you're ready to leave the house, right?
That's cool.
It's like you're still kind of reaching for your coat or like your cane and trying to look for your keys, and the Uber or cab or whatever it is you're using is waiting out there for you. Their meter's running. Um, you know, I feel that there are places where this app is absolutely useful. That is no doubt. Um, as far as to me, of course, as far as what some of the stuff she was talking about, as far as using somebody in the classroom, and I'm just going to give my perspective of somebody who was, in classrooms. Unless I'm getting access to information, and this is what it's about, getting access to that information. I would try not to use it then, because I feel like then I'm distracted by Aira. And not only do I have to pay attention to the professor, now I have to pay attention to Aira. It's, to me, honestly, of course, this is just me, training, so that you are able to use those tools as efficiently as possible.
I totally agree with you, Enrique. And I think this bears saying on this recording, we are not telling people to,
Mm-hmm.
you know, don't use your training, use Aira, right?
Yeah,
That is
yeah,
not
absolutely.
the message that we are trying to put out here today. That's not what we think. That's not what we believe. We
Mm-hmm.
definitely agree with the importance of training. And
Yes.
sometimes that training is going to require me, if I've got a Zoom meeting, for instance, I
Uh-huh.
need to go ahead and try and learn Zoom, learn some things about Zoom on my own time before I get to the meeting. That's called preparation, right? You
Yeah,
know,
absolutely.
I may need to learn, how do I raise my hand? Where is that at? And really, at this moment in time, with that free book by Jonathan Mosen, we don't really have an excuse, right?
Yeah.
Or I mean, we know people that use Zoom. You know, I might
Mm-hmm.
need to talk to a friend and say, hey, I know you're a Zoom user, you're a power user. In fact, that's what I had to do today. Like, okay, I know all R is supposed to record, but why wasn't it recording for me? You
Yeah.
know, it's nothing wrong with going to our family, our friends, other power users, and being prepared and being trained to do these things. All of these things are just tools in your belt, and training should be your first tool that you use. But I'm going to shut up. I just want to say,
Yeah.
um, because I really feel this very strongly. If you only have one option, you don't have options at all, right?
It, that is, I like that. I like that a lot because it is, you know, it's kind of one of those things that, and I, you know, I like to use a lot of, I like to think about kind of what, you know, similarities, right?
Mm-hmm.
And to me, it's kind of like saying, you know, the other day I was looking to, around my house, I was looking to put in hang new hooks. And so people around me would tend saying, you know, maybe if you use, instead of nails, try to use a screw. I mean, you know, use oh my goodness, now the word is escaping. That's not a screwdriver. It's that.
A hammer?
Not a hammer. Oh my God, like a little screw, right, on the wall.
Mm-hmm.
And so because that's gonna make it a little bit more fixed. And so of course, if I didn't have the tools, like I can use it with a hammer, right? You can put a little screw into the wall with a hammer, sure, but that's not what that's designed to do.
Mm-hmm.
So to me, it's like, well, I need a drill for that.
There you go.
Some things can be hammered in. Some things need to be kind of be used properly with a little screw. You need to use a screwdriver, a drill,
Mm-hmm.
and that is a difference. And I feel that's where it comes down to your training. Is not, these tools can be there, but like you said, I love that. If you only have one option, then you don't have enough. You don't have choices.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. It
Mm-hmm.
is what you have. And I feel that with training, yes, Aira, that's one service. You think about it, you use it when appropriate, when you feel that this is what option you have available to you. But if you think about it, you know, 30 minutes for $29, that's a lot of money. So use it sparingly, right?
Right.
Um, so that's kind of what, you know, and it's not just in this, it's in life in general, but specifically in this, you know, again, the 5 minutes, like you were saying, in 5 minutes, we can do so much if you prepared, if you have the skills to be able to say, this is how I'm going to set it up. This is how I'm going to take my, you know, notes on what I have in front of me, and how I'm going to arrange it, right? And so I like that. Now, with that, we can segue into something that's free, that's somewhat like Aira, same concept, which is Be My Eyes. And it works very much the same way. You call, somebody picks up in the other line, they get you that information, right? You use the camera on your phone or tablet to get access to that information. And it's free, right? You can have, and it's all volunteer based. So it's people who volunteer from around the world or whatever, around the country, who volunteer their time to give you this information, right? So, it sounds great. Like, oh, like Aira but free. Oh man, I'm gonna use that. You have used it more than me, Sharonda. So, but it's great, but there are downsides to it.
Yeah, there are, and I've used both services, like you said. I've used Be My Eyes. I had a toaster oven that I had won in a talent show, and and I was like, whoa, I've never used this thing in my life. It was in the box, and I called Be My Eyes and spoke with someone, and that person was great and helped us out. But then I called again to speak with someone about using a new washing machine. And the person was like, well, don't you know Braille? Like, why can't you do this? Why this? Why that? And I don't feel like their questions were ill-intentioned. I just feel that sometimes people they may be enamored, or they've got somebody on the phone that's blind that they maybe have never talked to a blind person. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely.
Whereas Aira, these are people who have been trained, in some type of skills to work with blind people of various, backgrounds, types, whatever, blah, blah, blah. So I've never had anyone ask me questions like, what? Don't you know Braille? Are you serious? Do I have to help you with this? Like,
and it's kind of like, well, if this thing was Braille, I wouldn't be calling you.
Right, exactly. And so, I mean, I just feel like one other time I called Be My Eyes, and I was like, okay, I have a Panera gift card. I'm just trying to get all the information off of it. This person didn't know what to look for. I didn't necessarily know what to look for. So they aren't really trained to know what to do unless you know what to do. And so there was some information that I got, but there was some that was missing. Whereas with Aira, they might say, oh, here's a membership number. You probably need this. All right, I'm going to write it down and email it to you. Or do you want to write it down?
Yes.
Okay, there's a website, there's a PIN number. They're trained to do those types of things, but the Be My Eye service is still a great service. I just think you have to definitely be more directed. You have to know what you want. You're not going to get any aid from the volunteer. You're basically telling them what you need.
And that's an important thing that kind of segues, and we could, I was trying to demo the Be My Eyes. I really couldn't get connected for some reason. I don't know. I gotta look into that. But it is a very, very similar app. They're pretty close, exactly the same concept. The only difference free. But this segues, I think, what you were talking about, being prepared and being direct into our next type of readers. Because one of the things that I tell clients is, part of your training, part of having those soft skills, is understanding how to ask people with directness about having them get to the information you want, right? Because it's not about what they want to give you, what information they are offering you, right? It's about what you are trying, what information you're trying to look for. And I'm going to use an example that I hope it doesn't get too down the rabbit hole as far as techie stuff. But for instance, when I'm I haven't done this in a while, and I really, really want to do it. But I have. I used to build my own desktops. And when you're building a new desktop, and you're before you load the operating system, you get into something called BIOS on a PC. Well, that's not accessible. So if you think about it, and for those who might be listening, who kind of used to use old computers and have had all those blocky print and all that stuff, it's very much like that. So there's no sound, there's nothing. It's just text on a screen. Press F3 for this, press F1 for whatever. Well, I've tried using somebody who, when I then used to have the skills to be as direct. And the problem with that is that I ended up getting information like, well, there is a blue background. There's some yellow text. And so the yellow text is inside another square. And there's a couple of symbols I don't know. And it's just, to me, it's like, well, no, all I need is the text. What is it? Just read the text. Forget about the colors. Forget about anything. I just want that information. That's all I want. And I feel that's where the different, that's where understanding what you're getting, understanding what you want is important.
That's true. That is so true. It's about being assertive and knowing how to communicate. I love that. Like, communication has to be a two-way thing, right? It's
yes.
You got to be able to say it. It's not just what you say, but I have to be able to say it in a way that the person is understanding. And I feel like as blind people, maybe that's something that we want to continually work on, I know what I'm trying to say to you, but I need to work on being able to say it so you can understand me. And that's the wonderful thing about, first of all, just knowing that what I have to say is important for my independence. The questions that I'm asking you, and the information I'm asking of you is important to me, and it's okay. That's a whole. I'm going down. I'm not gonna go down that rabbit hole, but it is okay to ask for some,
yes.
For information. I'll say it like that. And
absolutely,
yeah. And now that and you may have to continue to say that to yourself, that it's okay for me to ask. I'm not going to abuse it, right? But it's okay for me to ask. And that should help us to work on our directness and assertiveness.
And that's an important. And this kind of segues again into our next way of accessing this information, because it's all about digital reading. It's all, with this whole COVID-19 and social distancing. And for a lot of students, they may not have the option to have that in-person reader that they used to have, right? Hiring somebody. And it's going to be a bit of a, so let me just start actually, before I kind of head down the rabbit hole of what it's going to look like. Might as well just start talking about it. The next one that I use quite frequently actually with friends and family, and then when I need an actual reader that I pay for, is using some of the tools that are already available, which are like a lot of us are doing, Zoom or Teams at work, or Zoom with a family, or FaceTime, or whatever video chat service you prefer, right? A lot of that is already available. So you can create your own distance reader service with those tools that are already there. And I'm gonna tell you how. Let's say that I hire a reader, right, to read something to me. They're like, somebody that I hire from across town. Obviously, we can't meet together to read, right? So we can FaceTime, and using the same camera that the Aira agent or the Be My Eyes volunteer are going to use, the same camera, and I can have that person read something to me, right? And that's where that I can use that same, either a volunteer or if you're a student. In that case, then you can use a reader that you hire to read you that information. But again, like Be My Eyes, it's important to be assertive, polite and assertive, so that you get access to the information that you want, right? If I kind of don't know what I'm looking for, then it's going to be very hard to communicate. It's going to be hard to communicate what I'm looking for. Mm-hmm. So that's going to be your first thing. And you can, if you have an agreement with that person where, we're going to be $10 an hour, which is the standard rate, for instance, for our rehab agency, for the Department for the Blind. $10 is the standard, or what we pay for readers when a student needs a reader or somebody who's in college. So that's what they get. That's what they can ask for. So $10 per hour. And so then they might be thinking, well, how do I charge that if I'm using FaceTime? Well, if you have that person in your contacts, you look at your FaceTime and you can add the minutes. Yep. Let's go last 30 minutes. Last Monday, we talked at 7 o'clock for 15 minutes. You start to add them up, and that's how you come up with kind of what you might owe that person. Mm-hmm. But using those same service, if you need something quick, for instance, I've done this where I will take a picture of my W-2 when I'm trying to do my taxes. Mm-hmm. I can scan it, but unfortunately with scanning and it being in 2 columns, sometimes they don't line up exactly. So I want, trust me, with the IRS, you want to be accurate.
Yes,
very accurate. So some of these tools might not be so accurate. Okay, so I have an alternative tool, which is sometimes I'll take a picture of the document and I'll send it to somebody, especially somebody I trust, a family member or a close friend, and I can say, hey, can you kind of type it out, right? And then I have that information on my computer. I copy and paste into the H&R block or whatever form, and boom, fill it out, no problem. That's another way that can be done. And the same thing, if you're trying to look at a page or a graph, right? And you want to looking for something and you're saying, well, I'm a history major. I really don't need a reader in person. I just need the occasional description of a graph, right? The population density in Italy and, 1605, whatever. You have the person send them that information with just taking a picture, and then they can tell you kind of what they can put that information in a way you might be able to read it with a screen reader if you don't have access to tactile graphics or anything else, anything of that sort. So there are many different ways to access digital information. I mean, just in this time, we've talked about 3 big ones: Be My Eyes, Aira, Be My Eyes, using a video chat platform, or simply taking a picture with your camera of the thing you want to have access to, especially if it's something that you're like, I don't need that information immediately. It's just going to be nice to have an hour from now, or maybe tomorrow, right? Mm-hmm. Snap a picture of something, send it to a friend, a family, the reader you might have hired, and then use that information when you need to, right?
That's good stuff. I mean, these are all tools, right? These are all tools that we're talking about today. And I think when we had this conversation a couple of days ago, and Sharonda was working on recording, one of the things that we brought out, and I think it's worth us bringing it out again, is, every tool doesn't work all the time for the same reason, right?
Absolutely.
I love what you just said. Like, I may just want this information in my phone, in my notes or something like that. Mm-hmm. I don't need it right now. I don't, I'm just going to snap a picture and send it, or I'm going to call somebody on FaceTime and say, hey, look at this, can you tell me? And I may use a slate and stylus to write it down on paper. I mean, these are all tools. They're all tools. And, a handyman is going to come in with the tool belt and
Yep.
assess the situation, you know, and make the decision on what tool he is going to need to remedy the issue. And he may need one tool, he may need two tools, but you know, that's exactly what we're talking about today, is just knowing that you have these tools, you know, discovering them, being prepared, being assertive, being direct, and using them when necessary.
Absolutely. And I can tell you just another quick example on how I use pictures. So at work, I often, like, especially when we're logging in new equipment, right? Or I need to have something repaired and they ask me what the serial number is. We have, you know, our wonderful, our fantastic, you know, co-workers, you know, like, you know, who can read, you know, who also act as readers for us. Well, I can have somebody there with me, you know, let's say that I'm gonna log in 5 new computers at work as a tech specialist, right? I can have that person come over, then, you know, they read that serial number and then they're kind of away from their desk. If I don't need that information right then and there, what I've done is I'll take like a picture of where the serial number is, which is really, in most products, you can kind of tell right away, like a laptop. Usually just take a picture of the bottom of the laptop. It's somewhere there. So I'll send her the picture. She kind of looks at the number, and then my coworker sends it back to me and says, this is serial number such. Again, then I can copy and paste that number into whatever spreadsheet we're using to keep track of it. I can use it to braille it out and so forth. That is another example of how being efficient, right?
That's it.
Not only with your time, but with somebody else's time.
Ooh.
which is kind of leads us into the next topic about this, as far as having readers. Okay, Aira, Be My Eyes, you know, they're good tools when you need them. But one of the things that I always talk about is like, okay, but what are you giving up if you just use Aira, right? What are you giving up if you just use Be My Eyes? What are you giving up if you just use a volunteer with your FaceTime? And some people might think, well, what are you giving up? Well, and this comes from this approach comes from a speech from the Brown Monitor. It's from, geez, I can't remember what year it is, from Peggy Elliott, who wrote an article titled The Care and Feeding of Readers. Great article. I think we need to send that out, and it's an important article to read about, especially in these times when we're having, you know, distance learning and digital readers and anything else. But so one of the things that it talks about is how to manage readers, right? Readers are, if you're somebody who's hiring readers, those readers work for you.
That's right.
If you're a college student, and because not everybody's available at the same time, and you're managing 6 or 7 readers, which I always recommend to have multiple readers. Don't just, again, like the tools, don't depend on one person who, when you might need them, they might be sick, they might have something else to do at school, right, as they, or might also be going through college or work or whatever. Have multiple options. And a lot of students might not always think about the fact that if you're managing 6 or 7 people for 4 years of college, 5 years, whatever, that's middle management experience.
That's
right?
so true. Mm-hmm.
And so I think that you can start by, again, just posting on your school board, on whatever website, Facebook, on your church bulletin, the hiring of a reader. You start with that process. For instance, with our students that enroll rehab here at the Department for the Blind, you know, that you get when we pay for readers for students, $10 an hour,
Mm-hmm.
right? Don't let your counselor fill out the paperwork. You do it. You hire the reader. You sit there across from them. Why do you want to be my reader? Like any job interview. Absolutely. Because that is your experience as a reader, asking them what you need, laying out a contract, the expectations of, you know, build a schedule for that person. Saying, well, I need to put, if you know how much reading time or how much work time you need per class, you can lay out your schedule the entire semester, right?
That's true.
And have that person, okay, well, I'm gonna need you. When are you available? I'm available on Fridays and Sundays. Okay, so Fridays and Sundays 2 to 3. Every Friday, every Sunday, you schedule it out. And then you go to your other reader. Well, I'm available. Well, I need somebody who's for my econ class on economics class on like Thursday. I need to read my stuff by Tuesday, right? Okay, well, I'm available on Mondays. Fantastic. What time? 6 to 7. Boom. Every Monday, 6 to 7, 6 to 8, whatever. You have that reader scheduled all the way through your entire semester, and you have your readers lined up, scheduled. You have those expectations set, what you want from them, right?
Yep. Make that contract.
Make that contract, right? They work for you. You are the employer. You set the expectations. And this is where it leads to try your very, very best not to hire friends.
Yes.
I would say 9 out of 10 times I've seen those situations end in a lost reader and a lost friend.
Yeah.
Because at some point they're gonna, it's just having those boundaries is not always the easiest thing, especially with somebody you care about, right? Right. And sometimes you might have to let go of a reader, right? Sometimes you might need to be like, look, it's not working out, and move on. And that, again, making sure that you are in charge of all of it is important. With readers having the additional ability to pick your readers carefully. This is the one thing I've seen. For the most part, with a couple of exceptions, I'd say try not to hire somebody who thinks they know what they're doing. If you hire somebody who's like a history major, or like you, or a chemistry major, what you might end up with is somebody who's trying to interpret the information, not get you the information. And those are two very different things.
That's good.
Yep.
You don't want somebody trying to interpret. You want somebody to give you the information so that you can make your own interpretation.
Yes. Absolutely. You want somebody who's not going to think is like, well, I think this is, well, what you should know is like, no, read what's in the book to me.
That's
Absolutely.
Right.
Don't try to tell me what you think I should know. I decide what I need to know, what I need to remember for that test or for the project I'm working on. And I feel that tends to happen more when hiring readers that are like, somebody's like in a chemistry lab or whatever. The important thing is that they give you that information. If they don't know how to spell something, then have them read it phonetically. Just, okay, I don't know how to pronounce this word, well, read it phonetically, or, just keep it moving, because again, it's your time, it's their time, it's money that you're spending. So making sure that you just like keep them moving. And this goes to like, a lot of people ask me is like, oh, why don't you like realistic voices for like a screen reader, right? A lot of us who are avid screen reader users will use the eloquence. Why? Because it's actually kind of monotonous with a couple of exceptions, which allows me to get to information a lot faster and a lot more accurately. I don't want my screen reader to try to interpret a tone. I want that in my head, not the computer telling me kind of how something might be written.
Right. This is not an AI. This is a screen reader.
Yeah. Yes. And I feel that it needs to be the same with the reader. The best people I've had people read to me will read something with no inflation. Like they will just they will just read it flat. Those to me have been my best readers, not somebody who's trying to, because sometimes I'll try to have somebody read something to me. It's like, oh, no,
right. Just read what you see and let's keep it moving. Yeah.
Let's keep it moving. And so that's important. And that's one of the main things when it comes to reader. And I think it goes down to those expectations that we might have for those readers. That again, who sets the expectations? The person needing the reader sets those expectations. And I'm not saying don't let your readers go to the bathroom or, no. I'm just within reason, set expectations, right?
That's right.
Because if you have, especially in this world of digital media, if you have your reader like reading something to you and then they're checking their Facebook, I mean, yeah. I mean, what, both you and I, Sharonda, have employers. What happens if our employer walks in, and you're like on Facebook?
That's right. It's not going to be
paying
good.
Attention. Things aren't going to end up well. And that is just basic. And that's a basic expectations. Like, look, when I'm here, it's just that my boyfriend or my girlfriend or whatever texted me and they want me to know if, what I'm going to have for dinner. You're at work.
That's it. And they should treat it like a job, and you should treat it like a job, right? They're only going to treat it the way that you treat it. If you treat this like a job, I'm not saying don't be friendly to people, but if you treat it like a job, then it will help the reader that you've hired to treat it like a job. This is not a social club. This is, I need information. I'm paying you to give me information. You're here from 10 to 11 or 11 to 12 or whatever. Let's get to it.
Absolutely. And this comes to environment, right? This comes down to treating it like a job. If you're meeting somebody at your, maybe your common room at your dorm, especially if you're a college student, or at your apartment or at home, it does not make things as formal. And I always feel like whenever possible, a lot of public libraries and college libraries have rooms that you can reserve. Reserve those rooms. Use those rooms because it's business. It is not you're coming to do me a favor. You're working here. And I feel like that actually helps being in that environment. You're sitting down and you're getting down to business, right? I feel, especially to me, and I've seen it happen with some of my students where they'll have their friend or their room or their neighbor from down the hall read to them, and they're hanging out in their dorm or living room or whatever. And things, the line tends to get a little bit blurry.
Yeah.
And I have had to kind of, I've had conversations with some of my clients where it's well, now we need to, you're going to have this conversation with, so-and-so about how we're going to change the setting, right? If you want to rescue this reader, if you think that person's a very good reader, rescue it by saying, no, we're going to meet at the library now. We're going to meet at the DSS office. A lot of Department of Disability Services offices and a lot of campuses have reader rooms. I remember when I was in college, we had those. And so those, you could reserve those rooms as somebody who was, in the disability services department, or, if you had signed up as a blind person, they had a row of rooms that people could reserve for reading and proctoring tests and all that stuff. So you could reserve one of those rooms, and I often did, to sit down there with my reader. And I feel that these are all just options that I feel most colleges have.
Yeah, and these are things that when we talk about preparation, these are things that you want to think about ahead of time. What am I after? What do I need? What do I want? Where are we gonna meet? You, the person who's doing the hiring, and should have these answers, as you're talking with people and working with people.
Yeah, absolutely. Which again, there are other apps. There's a Voice Dream Scanner, one of my favorite apps out there. And I think it's one of yours as well, Sharonda.
Yes, I love Voice Dream Scanner and Voice Dream Reader. Oh, there's nothing like it.
Yes. So that's one of our other, reader options, that you can have. And whether you're using it to scan a whole textbook, which I've done, because it's just so fast, or you can scan individual pages, or you can even just scan your mail, right? So you can separate, let's say, your pile of junk mail and your pile of bills that you're going to have that Aira agent read to you. You can use that app to just keep scanning and scanning and scanning and set your pile up so that when that Aira agent is ready, boom, next bill, boom, next bill, boom, next bill. And you can get through a lot of that in 5 minutes.
It's so true. The other thing, especially now that there are probably a lot of ebooks, going around, if you needed to just import them in the voice dream reader, it'll read like PDFs and EPUB and doc, and and you can use different voices within there. If you've got a favorite voice, they've got a lot of them for you to choose from. The other day I learned how to highlight text. You can highlight, you can make notes on certain parts of the text. And I don't know if they still have the sale going on, but I know they had the pair of voice dream reader and scanner at one point for like $7 or $9. So it would behoove you to check that out if you've never used it. It can be used with items from Bookshare, from Dropbox, from Google Drive, from files if you're using the iPhone. Oh my gosh, it's just endless. It's so endless. I've even taken recipes that I've gotten off the internet and put it through and saved them in Voice Dream Reader. Those are such awesome apps.
And these are other tools you can use on top of what you might be using. Again, all those tools, right? Don't just try to build a house with a hammer. You need a lot more tools than that.
Right.
And it's the same thing. Don't try to build your life with just one tool. It's not. It hardly ever goes anywhere. But with Voice Dream Scanner, the one thing I like is that you can scan stuff, you can scan notes, you can scan those PDFs and read them later. If you have the Voice Dream Reader app, which is again those two apps together are like awesome. You can be reading your stuff while you're doing your laundry, while you're going out for a walk. Those are two very good other options that you might have to get access to their information, to have that again, this whole theme is about having access to information and about using the proper tools depending on what you're talking about. And I'm just gonna tell you that a Voice Dream Reader, Voice Dream Scanner are two apps that if you're a college student, man, either contact your rehab agency, contact your counselor, or just a $9 investment is a fantastic thing. I have a book. I still have my textbooks from grad school, from when I went to get my O&M license and such. I can still access those books. I can go back and look at chapters and read about it. And you can put your own bookmarks and then go back and search within those bookmarks and have like little flashcard thing, like things saved there. You can also search through text for keywords. That is so really cool. These are tools that I didn't have when I was going to college. Again, I'm now back in the old days when I used to go to school and I used to walk 5 miles uphill both ways.
Right. That's hilarious.
So that's
I don't want us to forget one last app, and that's CNAI.
Absolutely, that was actually the next one, because I know that's another cool one.
Okay, go. Well, okay, since I'm running my mouth.
You go ahead.
I love CNAI. I love it because there are a few channels on there. You can recognize short text. There is a money identifier. There is a barcode reader there. You can even do some handwriting. You recognize some handwriting. And this kind of lends to what we said the other day. Like, if the tool doesn't work for you the first time, don't give it up. Don't throw it out. Don't say it doesn't work. Keep practicing with it. My favorite example is you know, we have a lot of food and stuff here. And man, when my husband uses CNAI and works with that barcode scanner, I don't care what's going on. It's like he just gets it right away. When it's got the barcode scanner, it gives you kind of that tone so you know you're on it. And I'm like, dude, this is crazy. How do you do that? When I try the barcode scanner, it takes me a while, you know, but that doesn't mean that this isn't a great option, right? I can use short text. I've used that to identify items in the kitchen, items around the house, mail, you know, who this may be from. There's the money identifier part of it. You can put your paper currency up to it, and it will identify what that is. Those of us that are Facebook lovers, you don't have to put your hand up. It's okay. I understand. Uh, and Facebook is doing a pretty good job of identifying a lot of text in photos, but there are still some things that it doesn't identify. And Seeing AI is great with identifying photos from Facebook, but it will also identify photos from your camera roll, which is pretty sweet, right? If you know that on September 19th, you know, you took a picture of a person who had on a birthday hat sitting in, oh gosh, Olive Garden, right? You could go back to September 19th and you can look at your photos and you know, seeing that AI will identify those. It is such a great app. Microsoft has just done a powerful job making this work.
I really like that app. Even if you just want to know what's in your pantry, right?
That's right.
There's that can, you know, that you forgot to maybe label. You don't have braille, you know, labels. Scanning it, you know, it'll give you what that product is, right? And sometimes that's all you need. And I want to show, if I may here, I am going to show the voice stream scanner.
Awesome.
So let me, you know, tell me if you don't hear this.
Yeah, hear it well.
Education.
All right, so I'm gonna.
Characters, real table, headings, containers, language, speaking rate, 60%, 55%, voice stream reader.
Oops, that's the wrong folder.
Sub productivity folder, voice stream scanner.
Got it. I'm gonna just.
Voice stream scanner, cache, save, clear, button, bash mode on, button, bash mode off, bash mode on, bash mode on, bash mode off.
So I'm just gonna
capture image button,
capture my image here.
Capture image dimmed, play button, adjustable.
So I'm just gonna press play.
E-previews, Braille books for children, Addie's Surprise of Christmas Storybook 3 by Connie Porter, with permission of the publishers Pleasant Company Publications, Middleton, Wisconsin. Copyright 1993.
You see how fast that was?
So
it's just very fast, fairly accurate. Dash mode, again, I could have sat here and just turn the page, you know, double tap, take picture, switch the page, double tap, take picture, switch the page, so forth and so on. I could sit here and I've actually timed myself where I've been able to do a textbook in about, I think about 250 pages, and I did it in about 20 minutes.
Wow.
Which is really, really quite neat. If you have a book that the DSS office, because they might be busy or whatever, or you got it last minute from your professor and need to scan it, having the skill to do this would be great, because then you can only scan what you need. If you're setting up at the library, right, and you're trying to set up, let's say you have a pile of books that you want your reader to read to you, right, or you're looking through the table of contents, so you can set up to exactly the chapters you want them to read, and you want to lay them all out instead of having them look through it themselves. You can sit there and scan maybe the some of those books and saying, well, I don't want them to read this right now. I want them to start with this one. You can just snap a real quick picture of that title page and line them up in the way you want them to read it, right?
It's pretty powerful.
And that, yep. And you can just say, okay, start with the top book. Bring me the table of contents. Okay, change to chapter 25. Read the first paragraph. It's really, that's, to me, that's where you use all these tools in conjunction with a reader or with an Aira agent to get access again to information. Access to information. That's another theme of this conversation.
Absolutely.
Because I think if you're gonna sit there and be like, what is this book? Okay, move the camera a little bit to the left. Move it to the left. Okay, up. If you start doing that, I mean, right there, you could spend like a minute per book.
Yeah.
First of all, there goes your 5 minutes. And so that's, I think, where someone using these tools in conjunction with reader, with having those skills to be organized, those skills to understand what you're looking for. So those are my apps that I use. There's of course a lot of other apps or scanning apps, like for instance for looking for products. If anybody's a lover of the Amazon app, you can just use the camera button to recognize objects or recognize barcodes as well.
I love that. I've never done that. You said that on the other day. I love that.
Yep, and it is just a mainstream app that you can use with almost every device out there.
Dang, that's so cool. I think I don't know how much more we have, and that's truly up to Enrique. But I want to tell you that the goal, I believe, we've had some things that we've highlighted during this presentation. One of them being, being prepared. One of them, another one being communication, being direct and assertive. Another one I would say is, learning how to manage your readers, your time. This is a perfect thing to put on your resume. It is a skill. It's a, you know what I'm saying? It's a job. You've been a manager. One of the other things I wanted to just bring out, because I think we touched on it, is, the power is in your hands. You are the one who should be feeling empowered to do these things. Don't leave it up to somebody else to do for you. Nobody knows what you need like you, right? So I forgot our little slogan last week, the other day. Information is what I need, so just read, I think is what we went with, and that's what it's about. You should be the empowered one. You should be the one executing and making the decisions and moving this thing along and using the tools that are necessary and work best for your situation.
Absolutely. So, and with that, for anybody who's listening, I hope this helped. I hope everybody who's listening is staying safe. Okay.
If you all have any questions, make sure to get with, the tech person that you're working with, or your VR teacher or your counselor, to just find out more. And we sure do appreciate your time. And hopefully this has been really full of information.
Okay. Well, goodbye, everybody.
Bye, everyone.
Bye. Bye.